Right, we're now going to look at how to use the Virtuoso Bridge. And the bridge is a client that Virtuoso has to be able to create a secure TLS tunnel to enable you to test on applications on private networks, even where Virtuoso is a cloud application on AWS. And to do this, basically, you can run the bridge client, which you can download from our documentation. We have a Windows client, Mac, and Linux. And this enables you to run that. Whereas a test, you could run it on your laptop, so long as that's within the network and has access to the application to be tested. But you might otherwise run this on a virtual machine or else a server inside the network so that you're not dependent on someone's laptop being open to run it. Now, the bridge client is simply run from the command line. You generate a token from Virtuoso, which I'll show you how to do in just a second. And then you simply run it from the command line, which initiates the bridge. The bridge client then allows for the traffic to be passed to Virtuoso, and we'll look at how then, once the bridge is running, you can select it in Virtuoso to run goals, so test plans and journeys, using that bridge. So to do this, it's quite simple. You have in your user profile, and what we do is typically recommend a dedicated user is created just for the bridge tokens. But in the user account, once generated, you can go to the user menu, into API tokens, and create a token where we can say this is for the bridge certification. We're going to make it so that it's only for the bridge. If we select a token for all, then you could call any API. So this just restricts it only where we have the bridge instances. And when we click on save, it will create an API token, which we can copy. And then that's set up, ready for us to download and run, download the bridge client and run it from the command line. So to do that, we would come to Virtuoso's documentation, docs.virtuoso.qa, search for bridge, and it brings us to the bridge section. If we scroll down, we download the client based on the operating system we're going to be running. I'm on Mac, so I'm going to click on download, which downloads the client. Now, you don't have to install that. You simply, in this case, I'm going to move it to my applications folder. So you don't need to run this at all. It's just simply you have to download and just put it in a location, a folder on your laptop or server that you're going to run the bridge client from. And then to run it, basically, you're going to create, firstly, if you're on Linux or Mac, you have to run the chmod to run the client. That's a one-time. You only have to do that once. You don't have to do it every time you run it. Otherwise, you're simply going to run this command using the token generated from the platform, and that will initiate the bridge. And so I'll show you what that actually looks like. Bearing in mind as well, you can put some additional parameters. So you can put the N if you want to give a name for the bridge, a good idea to identify it. And then you can see that we have some other parameters that can be set for the bridge as well. So let's have a look what that actually looks like. So again, because I'm on Mac, I'm just going to run the chmod once. It's pointing to the applications folder, and that just will enable the bridge to be run. Otherwise, what I'm going to do here is using this command in the token, I'm just going to put that into the command line. Now note that I'm testing here against a staging environment, so I'm using the staging flag. You wouldn't need to do that if you're in our production environment, so app.virtuoso.qa. And I have given this a name, which is certification. And note here I pointed it to the applications folder just because I haven't moved the command line to that. Now when I press enter, this will literally go ahead and initiate the bridge. And we can see that if I just expand this out, we can see that it's gone through and the bridge is established. And that means that the bridge is running. Just one other note here is that you can use this to test on localhost as well. So if we scroll down, we can see that testing on local applications, just be aware that to do that, you have to use the IP. You can't use localhost, use the IP address. Okay, so now that the bridge is running, let's actually jump in and we can see now that if I go into a test and load up one of my goals, maybe my end-to-end goal, in order to enable Virtuoso to use the bridge, I would go in to the goal and go into the three dots next to the goal name, edit goal settings, go into environment, and in the bridge, you can now see I can pick up the certification bridge that I'm running. What that means now is when I execute my tests, so for instance, if I run this, then the traffic is going to be passed through the bridge to be able to access the test on the browser application on the private network, and then the traffic will be passed back to Virtuoso to return the testing results. So if we go to the project activity, then you can see here that we're using the bridge. And that just simply means if this application were on a private network, then we would be able to access, even though Virtuoso is in AWS, the applications on the private network, the bridge is creating that secure TLS tunnel to be able to pass the traffic. So that's how to use the Virtuoso bridge to test on private networks.